This video will demonstrate how to create the basket weave crochet texture. This is an example of how we are using double crochet post stitches to create a texture in our yarn that looks as if it's woven. It's one of my favorite textures in crochet. It looks really complicated, but once you get the hang of post stitches, it's actually quite simple. So I'll show you how we create this texture in crochet using our post stitches. For this motif, you'll have to start with a chain of multiples of 8 plus 2. That will allow your post stitches to be situated in a way that you'll work 2 rows exactly the same beyond the first foundation row, and then followed up by 2 opposite rows that are the same. So let me show you. It sounds complicated, but it's actually pretty easy. So we've got a first row of double crochet stitches, and I worked 24 to make a 6-inch wide swatch here. So we'll begin by chaining 2. Our turning chain will count as a stitch. And this texture is created by alternating post stitches. So if you're not familiar with double crochet post stitches, I'm going to demonstrate what they look like here. So beyond your first row, you'll start working those alternating post stitches. A front post double crochet looks like this. You'll yarn over like a regular double crochet, and instead of working into the stitch, you're going to insert your hook from the front to the back and around the post to create your double crochet. Sometimes it's hard to get the terminology right on these because it seems a little counterintuitive. This is how I like to remember it. A front post double crochet, you are inserting your hook from the front. That's my little mnemonic device to remember which is which. Also, it will push those stitches forward to the front. So since this turning chain counts as a stitch, we've got 1, 2, 3. We'll make a 4th front post double crochet stitch here before we alternate to back post. So alternatively, I remember the back post double crochet as you're yarning over and inserting your hook from the back around the post. Now this one's a little bit tricky. You're going to want to hold on real tight to the base of that stitch in order to bring your yarn up. And then you'll finish that double crochet. I'll show you that one a little bit closer. That's a trickier one, so we'll yarn over from the back for the back post and finish out that double crochet. So we'll do 4 of these. This is my 3rd. And alternate back to our front post. And you'll continue alternating those 4 stitches across your row. Once you've worked those alternating stitches across your row, you can chain 2 and turn your work. And you can make the portions of this texture at any height that you like. I sort of like that perfectly square look going across. So for the purposes of this swatch, I'm only making my individual pieces 2 rows in height. So even though that first row was just double crochet, you see the pattern has emerged by adding that second row. So we'll move on to sort of alternate where these blocks sit to create the basket weave texture. So we will begin by doing sort of the opposite of what we did in the first row, and we're going to repeat that twice. So when we created our first row, we did front post, back post, front post, back post, front post, back post. And starting off with that, multiples of 8 will ensure that if you're working in 4 stitch increments, that your first set of stitches is going to be different than your last one. So when you turn your work, it won't be hard to figure out what to do next. So we started with front post for this section. When we turn our work, that's a good way to remember what to do next. For your next section, we're going to work back post. Now again, we've got our turning chain here, which counts as a stitch. So we're going to work 3 stitches first. So we're going to work 3 back post double crochets. Next, we'll work 4 front post. And we'll keep alternating across the row. At the end of row 3, you'll start to see that pattern emerging a little bit, and we are going to make sure though that we are making those block sections the same size. So we're going to repeat that row once again. You'll continue repeating 2 rows at a time of your alternating increments of 4 stitches, and that will create your beautiful basket weave texture.